Imagine a product that held the world in awe and promised to revolutionize personal transportation, but ultimately met a fate so dire that even the company's owner couldn't escape its clutches. Get ready to dive into the fascinating world of Segway, the groundbreaking two-wheeled vehicle that laid the foundation for the modern e-scooters we use and adore today. We'll discuss the major errors that caused Segway to fall drastically short of expectations, and be sure to watch until the end of the video to see whether Segway truly deserved its massive failure. It was December 2001, and out of nowhere, a personal transportation device called Segway was launched. Dean Kamen, a genius inventor known for his groundbreaking work in the medical field, wanted to create a convenient, sustainable, and user-friendly mode of transport. What made the Segway stand out from the crowd was its unique self-balancing technology. Unlike anything we'd seen before, it quickly captured people's imagination as a potential solution to urban congestion and a glimpse into the future of transportation. Let's rewind a bit to when the Segway was still under wraps. Back in those days, these two-wheeled wonders looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. The secrecy surrounding their development only added fuel to the fire. The whole project had a mysterious code name, Ginger, and rumors and speculation were swirling around like a whirlwind. Everyone was dying to know what groundbreaking technology the Segway would bring to the table. And then Dean Kamen said himself, "I believe the Segway HT will do for walking what the calculator did for pad and pencil. Get there quicker. You'll go further." He raised all the expectations, and the hype surrounding it was the modern-day equivalent for the buzz around Tesla's mind-boggling Cybertruck. And when the Segway was finally unveiled, it was met with a mix of awe and skepticism. The Invention had the audacity to claim it would revolutionize transportation and change the way we navigate cities. With all that hype and media coverage, the Segway became one of the most eagerly anticipated product launches of the early 2000s. Fast forward to 2007, and the Segway had only managed to achieve a measly 1% of its sales targets. Then, in 2015, the company threw in the towel and was acquired by Ninebot, a Chinese rival. So, what went wrong with this supposedly life-changing machine? Well, there were several reasons behind its failure. First, let's talk about Segway's pricing strategy, because they truly missed the mark. Seriously, who could afford those things? With a price tag of over $5,000, they were basically reserved for the elite. It's not only your average Joe who could hop on one and cruise around town. It became more of a status symbol than a practical way to get from point A to point B. And let's be real here, for that kind of money, you could buy yourself a motorbike or decent scooter. Sure, Segways had their appeal. They could make you look cool. They could take you from one place to another with minimal effort, and you could practically channel your inner Phil of the future. But the burning question remained, were they really worth the hefty price tag? Well, the market spoke loud and clear. Segways failed to break into the mainstream. Now, imagine if Segway had taken a different approach. Instead of slapping on a ridiculous price, they could have considered a pay-per-use model, just like the electric scooters we see buzzing around today. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Unfortunately, back in those days, we didn't have the same technological advancements we do now. Smartphones were still in their infancy, and an app that unlocked an electric scooter like Lime? Forget about it. It's hard to say if that kind of innovation was even possible back in 2001. Another big reason why Segway failed was that it completely dropped the ball when it came to advertising and marketing. If you want to make a niche vehicle successful, you need to figure out who your target audience is and how to reach them. But instead of doing that, Segway decided to just promote their model to anyone and everyone. They didn't bother to establish a specific profile of use or cater to a particular group of people. And get this, they were so secretive about the design and development of the Segway that they didn't let the public in on the revolutionary potential of the product. Sure, they wanted to prevent other companies from copying their idea, but in the process they missed out on creating a captive audience. People didn't even realize what a game changer the Segway could be. It's such a shame, because the Segway was actually a reliable product, and it made a profit for 4 whole years after its launch. Can you imagine how much more successful it could have been if they had just invested in a solid advertising strategy? Another significant obstacle was Segway's design, which was in desperate need of some serious changes. The Segway was originally meant for urban environment, and it couldn't handle off-road or bumpy terrain at all. So forget about taking it on an adventure through the wilderness, and even for everyday city commuting, it fell short. They practically took up the whole pavement, making it a nightmare for pedestrians. And if you thought you could take it to the streets, think again. The Segway was way too slow to keep up with the traffic. Plus, it was way too heavy to carry into your office or anywhere else. Regardless of your thoughts on its design, the idea of letting a machine do the walking for you sounds pretty convenient, right? Well, Segway was a bit of a wild card. You couldn't always rely on it to keep you safe. Safety regulations were practically non-existent. People were zipping around on Segways without even wearing helmets. It was like a chaotic free-for-all. Cities and towns didn't know how to handle it, so they were all over the place with their rules. Some places banned Segways from sidewalks or made you get a special permit. It was like everyone was winging it, treating the whole Segway situation like a massive, thrilling, but risky experiment. In fact, there were some seriously nasty accidents that made people question its safety and stability. Now, let's get real. Even if we forget about everything that Segway lacked, it's not a joke when it comes to danger. Perhaps the most tragic incident was the death of Jimmy Heselden, the owner of Segway Incorporated, who died in 2010 after falling off a cliff while riding a Segway. And he wasn't the only one. You've probably seen those hilarious movie scenes with Segway wipeouts, right? Well, those weren't just movie magic. People frequently crashed and tumbled off their Segways in real life too. Even George W. Bush, the former president, crashed his Segway once. If the leader of the free world couldn't handle it, what chance did the rest of us have? You can find a ton of videos on YouTube showing people losing control of their Segways. Some folks were lucky enough to just have a funny story to tell about their Segway falls, but others suffered serious injuries like facial trauma, brain damage and bone fractures. However, it's surprising how this product managed to stay in production until 2020. It just shows that despite all the problems, it still found its place for specific uses. The reason it stuck around was its affordable maintenance and the option to include it as part of a fleet. That's what made it profitable in the long run. But as time went on, inventors came up with newer and more affordable versions of the Segway. One such invention was the hoverboard, which hit the market in 2013. Unlike the Segway, this device didn't have any handles and was completely controlled by foot. This also made it safer because if anything went wrong, the user could easily jump off the hoverboard. Then, in 2017, companies like Bird and Lime unleashed the swarm of dockless e-scooters onto the streets. They may not be the safest option either, but they're smaller and lighter than the Segway. And let's not forget, they're way cheaper too. But surely it was the Segway that paved the way for the e-scooter technology we have today. Recently, the company itself has shifted its focus towards electric scooters and e-bikes, acknowledging the rising popularity of these alternative modes of personal transportation. But the competition is tough. Lime, Bird and Jump, who are already well established in the market, are giving Segway a run for their money. Now, looking back at the past, we can clearly see the stark differences between those early models and the e-scooters we have today. Initially, e-scooters were kind of awful. Their tiny wheels made them a disaster when it came to potholes, bumps, and drainage grates. But the later generations came up with bigger, sturdier tires. Sure, it made the scooter heavier to carry, but it made them safer to ride. Also, e-bikes initially slapped a motor and a big old battery onto a regular bike, but they quickly realized that customers have diverse needs. Some want a massive cargo e-bike that can carry people or goods. Others prefer an e-bike so sleek and elegant it has non-removable batteries built right into the frame. These are the kind of things you can only learn when you're in touch with reality, not when you're hiding away in some secret genius lair. So despite its well-deserved failure, Segway did evolve into a vehicle that delivered much of what the original offering promised. We may conclude that Segway didn't solve a problem, but we can't deny the fact that it ignited a spark of innovation that led to the creation of alternative modes of urban mobility. So yes, it was a failure, but a much needed one. After all, we learn from our mistakes. Before you go, be sure to check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.